Hi, everybody. This is Joanna. Thank you so much for tuning in. And this is going to probably be a 2 or 3 part series because it's a big one. All the culminations that I've been moving through, and part of my soul's mission and passion is to bring and break through paradigms of change, paradigms of transition. And oftentimes we move through these experiences from all of our challenges that we move through, each and every one of us moving through our own unique soul's blueprint, if you will, calling in the stories and the frictions of the unresolved unfairness, if you will. So this, hopefully, these will be very passionate discussions. So those of you that are not interested in those very passionate discussions, you can turn off right now. Because this is a culmination of my life story, and I'm already getting verklempt. And it's kind of an encapsulation of what Spirit was showing me on many of the reasons why I've come facing the challenges that I have and experiencing what I have, and how it's led me kind of in these paradoxical experiences where I've kind of looked at myself on the outside and saying, what the crap, how is that even a part of what I had thought was relevant for my story? And Spirit was showing me this morning is that all is relevant, all is a part of the grander version of you accepting all that is as a part of Source Creator. So what we're going to offer is a multidimensional vibration as the Holy Christ that we are, becoming new beings. And we're in a really powerful, accentuated time right now for humanity to create and break out and bust out. But this is a personal story of my own experience and expression. And I've come as a vibrational speaker and healer to see and feel things at a multidimensional level, and why it's important that each and every one of us soak within the unique and individual stories of who we are as Source Creator. And so the themes of these part series will be about the story of who we are with Source. And the story of who we are with Source is you and God as divine threading. And it'll make sense as we move forward in our stories. And it's very passionate as far as many of the frustrations and many of the anger and agitation that I've experienced as I'm a high vibrational crystal being, a crystal child, preparing these lands and these grids and these stories for hybrid children, meaning that we have to break apart the old systems, and which is the frustration and the anger of all the limitations and all the boxes that we've each been placed in, that we've chosen to come in. Remember, it's not us and them, it's not the systems and us. These are the stories from old paradigms that each and every one of us are here to bust out of elegantly, with great profound honor. Remember, these are not protests. These are the stories of the uniqueness and the oneness of who we are as Source, our unique divine threading, our unique story of who we are, and why we have those moments of divine, powerful tower moments through which take us on a completely different spiral and story, so that we can ever press out into our allness and our oneness, into a new story. And so how this came about was being inspired to look at a perspective of a story, the essence of Source Creator. And they were showing me within this frustrating story that I'm moving through right now, trying to make sense of it, when I was a bystander, if you will, not even involved in any of the story, but being an outside participant, if you will, because of varying circles that I was leaving from and trying to understand and heal from. And in the frustrations of how to heal my body, how to heal my story, those frustrations and those angers about having to face decisions and having to face those lower aspects of me in the story, to unveil the truth of what was really in the story. And so I'll see if I can allow it to be of greater understanding. We are micro macro of Source. Each and every one of us is Source, God Creator, the cell of Source. This is very, very healing on my throat chakra, and it goes over so many timelines. So this offering, whether we do it in parts, I'm not sure. I'll just have to see how we get through this. Each and every one of us come as the micro macro of Source Creator. We are the perfect cells of Source. We are each infinite beings of Source. And as I was shown in this vision, to help me understand as a multidimensional person, trying to understand as I'm creating this new reality for myself, trying to justify and make peace with those aspects of my life that were seeming overly frustrating and agitating for me to understand it at a higher vibrational level for acceptance and for acknowledgement. And I was shown that we're perfect golden orbs of perfection being placed in you, if you will, into the womb of the mother, and the womb of the mother into the house of the mother, and the house of the mother into the community, into the city, into the country, and so on and so forth, micro, macro. In this dropping into of life, being then nourished within the energy of the mother, and taking on whatever energies that mother had, then taking on whatever energies the house had, then taking on whatever energies the community had, and so on and so forth. And then that perfection of God taking on all of the lineage idiosyncrasies, the cultural idiosyncrasies, the dogma idiosyncrasies, then becomes this essence of perfection that is touched in every way, and starts to become fragmented, if you will. It's not purely transparent. It starts to become fractured, because the purity of what it was starts to become fractured by the energies of the carrying of the mother, becomes fractured by the energies of the carrying of the home. I say carrying because this is being in the space of. And remember, Archangel Master Babaji was showing me that before we know it, we are actually the ones that affect our environment, because we are the perfect God essence. So that's good to keep in mind as I'm telling this story. But how we have been moving throughout eons is of limitation and separation. So that means that when this perfection of crystal, before it becomes fractured, is placed within the womb, is placed within the house, is placed within this community, is placed within the city, is placed within the country, it becomes fractured infinitely within itself, because within itself, it doesn't know that itself is perfect and whole with Source Creator. So these fractures become then less than of itself, because of itself, it says that the mother doesn't feel happy and whole within herself, so she then projects those energies into the baby. And therefore becoming whatever the energies of the house is, further becoming fractured of the energies and the projections of the male energy, and so on and so forth, then becoming of the community. Therefore, it sees itself between all of these projections that it doesn't know and is never told is perfect with Source inside. It starts understanding itself as a beautiful being, perhaps, and then fractured because of all of its essences around what it's been placed within. So they showed me this beautiful perfection of my beautiful hair, the dropping down of this beautiful, perfect crystalline with no fractures in it being placed within the womb. The womb then starts to affect the perfection of the God cell, because of its fractured beliefs, its fractured lack of wholeness, its fractured separation, its fractured projections from what it is receiving from its environment and whole, because it has never been taught that it is perfect from within. Remember, it's never learned its vortex of who it is within itself. So that cell becomes more prone to take on the environment energies, because it's not the perfection of who we are within the Source. It gets forgotten, if you will, and projected in a zillion different ways of how it's meant to be. This God cell is the story of God that we are meant to remember, unfractured. But because when we come into the world, we then start taking on the energies and the fractures of everybody else. We come with a soul's theme and our own personalities, yes, but we then begin what is important in my story that has got me so frustrated and so angry and agitated, because that anger and agitation is what becomes that pearl that's inside all of that juice of the all that story is, and being placed within all of these other stories that choose to place pressure around you to conform you, because they're stories of separation, they're stories of limitation, they're stories of fear and greed. So the house is a story of its own experience, and you choose it. You choose your parents, the story that you choose your parents to carry you in, your mother, your father. You choose the house, you choose everything, you choose it all. That choosing is because you have this divine perfection within you to break every barrier that you come within and you're placed within through your higher self, your soul, and all that you come as a collective, as the God seed cell that made you break out of it and create something new for yourself, create your new story, your unique story. But we're never told this from the beginning. We're never told how we are perfect. So I was shown these beautiful little perfect gold balls being placed within in the wombs in the houses. And then in the houses, they are then sent all of this energy to tell it what it is. It becomes it becomes an infiltration, it becomes an insertion of other stories that are now falling apart and dissipating. Because the stories that are all dissipating are the ones from egocentric greed, control, and fear that are no longer a part of who we are. That's why we're going through such great friction. And so as I saw these little gold things being placed down, because I was saying to them, I was saying, well, why am I feeling such great friction and great agitation? Because this is not my story. Everything that I'm seeing around me is not my story. My story is something different. And they're saying, they were showing me because the friction of all of the suppressions and the subjugations of other people's stories that I was inserted within. I came into this beautiful world as this beautiful crystalline child, as this beautiful glowing child, placed within such dysfunction and limitation, and conformed to the ideas and the projections of what others thought of me and wanted of me. And then when you go into varying degrees of abuse and molestation and all of the things that I've experienced, because of the lack of perfection that it held within itself to be a perfect story within itself. And I am a perfect story. My perfect story, I get to be the hero. I get to be all characters of my story. And so the stories that we become are the limitations of what we've thought to be true and what we were told, and the projections and the energies that we've been placed within through our own choosing. But so that you know that we each come as the perfection of the pure source creator, as transparent as all. We are the transparency of God. We're perfection. We are infinite. We are eternal. That is the now story. The now story is that we begin at infinite. We begin at free. We begin at liberated. And for Divine Feminine, for me to move through all of the stories as I was reflecting upon all of the agitations and all of the disappointments, the sadness of all the disappointments, because I knew within myself that there was perfection, that there was beauty, that there was infinite capabilities. And yet I succumbed to the insertions and the projections of other people's conformity of me. And that made me really angry throughout my whole life, and why I ran and why I went into addictions, because everywhere I turned and everywhere I looked, there was different limiting stories, different stories, but still limiting. And so today there was, watching a couple videos, and as I'm scanning all of the video titles were titled as Divine Feminine fitting their way and being inserted into the way of the divine male story. That just got me really pissed off. I'm just like, what the fuck? We are sovereign beings. We don't have to be inserted into anybody's story. We are our own story. We're our own story. It's who we are. We don't need to be inserted into anyone's story to feel validated, to feel precious, to feel perfect, because we always have been. And so this experience of, I was saying to my guides, I was saying, do you see what's happening here? Every story that I'm seeing being pressed upon me is about how a divine feminine inserts and fits itself into a divine masculine's world. No. And this is how I've been feeling for so very long. And all of the experiences that I've had, being such a creative, brilliant, genius, infinite child, being inserted into such limiting programs. And that's exactly why we're here. Because right now we're remembering our perfection. Right now we are remembering that we are our own hero's journey. We are the hero in every character within our own story, and why we create what we do. So if we take this concept and this metaphor of the perfection of God, it's called the divine threading they gave me, because this morning they gave me an earlier term and they told me not to use it, because it would mean something different to other people and it would be taken out of context. So we reworded it to divine threading, meaning that in each story that we see moving around our world are all aspects of our stories of ourselves. We are the writers with God, with Source Creator, and we write and call in the characters of all these fractures that we need to heal to become transparent. And so at any moment of the whole story of who you are, any conformity that you felt, for instance, giving this as an example, if someone has been moving through their life confused and unaware of, we'll say, sexuality, and their life's story, sexuality, is to be free and liberated in who they are, with the expression and the experience of, say, both male and female. But in the stories that they were placed within was very limiting. And because the certain beliefs were very limiting, and the household was very limiting in the beliefs going against what the purity of this transparent story was, that it came to experience and explore was perfect for them, they took on the conformity and the judgments and the pain and the anger and the lack of belonging, the lack of acceptance, the lack of allowance that those confining energies and characters of the story took. However, that the beautiful, perfect God source didn't know and was never told that it was perfect. It was never told that however you choose to experience yourself and explore yourself as a sexual being, then you have, you're not perfect, because this is how our rules go. This is, you're imperfect and you don't belong if you have something different than what we say. So this becomes very big and fractured because it's not allowing itself to be fully, truly accepting within itself and allowing of itself. It creates the characters that it needs to throughout the rest of its story's life to call in the same characters that will continue to judge it, continue to demean it and belittle it, because it doesn't, it needs its continual facing before it comes to its truth and say, screw it. This is who I am. This is my perfection. And if others don't like it, I'm going to call in new characters, because you begin living in the truth of who you are and healing those fractures. So you call in those characters of your story, and oftentimes you even play the villain. You even play the shadow, so that you can then yourself talk yourself back into who you are as perfect. Because sometimes you have to see and feel and experience what you're not to know who you are. And that's the perfection of who we've come as, the stories and the perfections of Source Creator. We are all stories of the divine perfection. We call in the characters that we need to until it gets to the point. For me, it was feeling the conformity and the restrictions and the limitations and the rigidity and the stresses about how lack of importance and lack of validity that the divine feminine and sacred children have in this world. And it's frustrating. It's really agitating. But those are the fractures that I had right when I was a child, to say, no, children are not to be seen. They're not to be heard. They're only to be seen. No, you're going to be this in your life. Your body is not important, and you don't have to say no. You don't have to protect your body. Your body's not important, because there's those that have greater control over your body. Whatever those fractures were, they become smaller and smaller and smaller beingness of who the grandness of who I am, and say, no, you're going to be inserted where we think you're going to be inserted, because divine masculine is far more important, and we're just going to insert divine feminine where they need to be. And so in any of the projections that I was looking at, the past, oh God, I don't know, 10 months or so, it's all these projections about, the energy of divine feminine waiting for the divine male to wake up, for the divine male to, sort out their life, to figure things out, and divine masculine getting to a certain stage, or whatever the divine masculine story is, it doesn't matter. But it's all of these stories about divine feminine being inserted into a divine masculine story. And so today, as I was reading and reviewing these energies, and all of the outside energies and my childhood energies and all of these similar threaded experiences, and there's no right or wrong, and there's no judgment on any of it, because divine feminine are also figuring themselves out. I'm talking about the underlying, and there's another important energy that we're getting to. The underlying energy of the story of our world has been for eons of egocentric domination in the male experience, and why divine feminine have been completely written out and taken out of our story, the human story. Remember, micro, macro. Gaia, divine collective story, is the micro, macro of Source. Source's grander cell, the body of the collective. Remember, cell by cell, we are atoms of Source. We are healing the densities to become really light and powerful, transparent beings of Source, remembering who we are as perfection. And each and every one of us coming to our own unique perfection, of our unique perfectional story of who we are as perfection, infinite beings. As we do so, we light up and shine it with the rest of everybody, and everybody else becomes transparent. If they so desire, it's always their free will to be their perfection of their story. The underlying vibration of the collective is egocentric domination of everybody else fitting into and being inserted into these old programs that are now dissipating and falling away, because it's not working. It's not working. There needs to be balance. It requires to have these beautiful, profound stories of women and children and disenfranchised. Why they're even disenfranchised. We're all one. The stories of every single person being perfect, the stories of every single person being the hero of their own story, to say that I am perfect right from birth. I'm perfect from the inception of who I am. There is no limitation. There are the walls that carry me and support me and honor me, if you will, and keep rain off of my back and snow off of my back, but I will not be limited by these walls, and I will not be held in a cage. And so understanding this story, and talking through it, the underlying vibrations is limitation. And we're placed within stories of limitation between those that carry us and those that care for us, and those that, and by their own highest good, because they're only doing the best they can from what the limitations they were told. But this is why the divine threading is that now there is a threading that's carrying us to greater lands and greater stories and greater landscapes, if you will, to create greater stories. And this is what it's kind of a playoff of the tornado that they told me the other day. Take what you need from those stories and then thread it into the new vibrational harmonic tornado. Tornado meaning that there's a quick movement of energy and air. And energy, we say air, but it's the omnipresent source, the harmonic song of source. Is the story within us based on who we are as perfected cells of source? We're perfect, we're infinite. There is no boundary, there is nothing holding us back in any way. Whatever we think there is, whatever those agitation stories are, oh, I don't have enough money, I have to wait for my ex to pay me spousal support, I have to ask for permission, I have to have approval, I have to wait for the divorce papers to be filled. Whatever those agitations are that seem to be holding you back and limiting you are absolutely not. They're little, if you will, they're little points on your story that have absolutely nothing to do with who the perfection of you are as the transparent energy of God. And you infuse those energies of your perfection, and it will be what it's meant to be. You infuse the light and the perfection of you are, and those boundaries and those walls of that house come falling down. The boundaries and the walls of that shaky foundation that something was built on that was not trustworthy, that was not truthful, that was not honest, that was not built with the integrity of love and truth. That's why those towers happen. That's why we are becoming the light that we are, because we are the transparent energy characters, the heroes of our own story. The heroes of our own story, meaning that we call in from all of those agitated limitations that we are conformed within. Then we're placed within this perfect little being that's placed within a school. And then the school tells them more of who they are, and they become more fractured. And then the businesses tell them who they are, and they're more fractured. And the community and societies tell them who they are, and they become more fractured. So as a divine feminine that's going from place to place, to school, as a crystalline child, as a high vibrational being, coming to so much of what I've experienced as limitation and density and the absolute opposite of liberation. Feeling as if my voice was never validated and accepted and honored, and the acceptance and the belonging of who I am within this perfect story, to know that my voice is unique, my stories are unique, how I can see things and feel things are unique, and it's perfect, and I will not be limited by anything placed around me. That's what we're getting to. That's what awakening is. I am a perfect infinite being, transparent fully as with source, and all of these little fragments are all of the projections that were placed on me that I chose to break away from and break free into a new being of who I am, because I'm my own hero. I don't need to be inserted into anybody's story. I'm not waiting around to be inserted into somebody's story. I'm not waiting around for somebody to place you in a position of, oh, I want to wed you. I'm not waiting for someone to save me. I'm not waiting for someone to no, I'm my own story, and my voice is perfect, and my feelings and my experiences are perfect. They're perfect and real. Just as the person that had within itself the story to explore and express sexuality in this lifetime, just because it became into a body that had a lot of limitation and judgments, those fractures became a part of that friction that person that day would then start breaking through and becoming its full transparent experience of source, breaking away the judgments and the barriers that we get so succumbed within that are not our own. They're not our own. And that's why when you have those big breakthroughs, those big epiphanies, they're like huge energetic frictions of all of the timelines and all of the energies. That's what the divine threading was showing me. That because we are becoming our whole omnipresent self, all of those repressed aspects of who we are start surging in with energy so that you can create a bigger story here now. And that is the story of the magnetics that is directly related to the divine threading. It's a part of you, the micro, macro, the cell of source. You are the perfect insertion of source going into whatever community and reality that you are, that you've chosen to be a part of. But how much of your story is actually your authentic story? How much of it is what you have become conformed within, relaxed around, inserted so that you can feel like you fit, or your voice is now, you feel like you have to be smaller and less important and less shiny because other people feel more comfortable, because they're not comfortable when you really shine. They're not comfortable when you share your real voice. Well, that's okay. Then you create your story over there, and I'm going to continue being me, and I'm going to continue to create my story because I am the hero of my story, and my voice does matter because I'm actually healing those fractions within, those fractals within me that said I wasn't important, that my story didn't matter, that I wasn't big enough and shiny enough, and people felt uncomfortable around me. So feel uncomfortable and sort your own story out. We are the perfection of Source Creator, here to shine our perfection and be all that we are. And through all of that, all conformity and all limitation and all fragments and all fractures are healed. Because they were showing me that in the same benevolence and the same love and the same honor of this beautiful story that each and every one of us are, we are the heroes. The heroes mean that you overcome all challenges of limitation, fear, greed, separation, and why we call in those characters, why we become the characters of the villain and the hero, because we want to know that we are perfect within ourselves, and we create our own stories. We create the landscapes. We call in the characters. We call in the climax moments and the ones that just fall back and say, I didn't expect that at all. Such an ending I did not expect. Because that's spirit working through you to say there's bigger things and greater things for you. But do you believe it? Do you believe that you are perfect? Do you believe that you are the hero? Do you believe that all of those fractals, all of those fragments were a part of a grander threading that needed to be broken by someone that could stand up and say, my story counts. My story counts. I'm a perfect divine feminine. I have great wisdom. I have great shine. I have great integrity. I have great authenticity. And I will no longer be made a fool of. I will no longer be made a part of a manipulative story that I had no part in. I'm not going to be made small. I'm not going to be made unimportant because I want to make others happy and comfortable. No, I'm going to shine in the way that I am. And I'm going to be the highest and the best version of me that I can be, and shine in my greatest light, because I'm poop, 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 all of these little fractal threads that are now coming down because we're living in our truth and our authenticity. And it's not stifled and squashed and held in a jacket of limitation because it doesn't match up with the conformity of others' projections and obligations and wants and needs. We're all stories. And in every movement, we're creating a new, bigger, grander, and we're moving with this story of Source Creator into higher threads of story. We're threading with our higher selves. But in the meantime, we still have to thread as the infinity moves, as see all the fractals of us, all these fractals of us, the limitations of all parts of our stories that we played, all characters, all stories, all realms. We're still having to pull all of those limiting points throughout our lives, all of our lives where we were conformed, all of our lives where we fit into someone else's story because we thought that's what we had to do. And all of those limitations and all of those gatherings and all of those succumbings to stories around you, the times that you conformed to somebody at school because your emotions and your heart was hurt because of bullying. And then you changed and you conformed and you changed who you were as the perfection of you. And we're saying this because it's a beautiful investment. It's a beautiful inspiration. It's a beautiful empowerment to feel as the writer and the author with Source. You are perfect, you are whole, you are shining, and you are bright. And everything else around you is an idea that is falling away now. They're ideas and they're illusions of conformity. Because if we are not operating within our authenticity of perfection and wholeness and magnitude of awesomeness, then it's a limitation. And each and every one of us are the characters in our own stories to break beyond that. And it can be any type, depending on what you're here to heal for the collective, for yourself, and for your family. Whether it's about sexuality, whether it's about limitation for divine feminine, whether it's about the upbringing of higher vibrational grids for the children. And so what they were showing me is that, again, these are all about conformity stories and limitations that are all being broken up from the purity of who we are within us as pure beings of divine light, pure beings of divine mastery, pure beings of divine masterfulship. We get to say who we are. We get to say what our story is. We get to design our story. We get to call in the characters that we want based on our vibration and based on our understanding of our oneness with source. The more powerful at will that is, the more powerful in excitement that is, the more powerful in character it is, authenticity of who you are as a creative being, then you are the masterful creator of your reality. And why oftentimes we feel that frustration of the reflection of the reality. It's not reflecting back to you because you're still working on those fractals and fragments to say you got to insert yourself into someone's lower vibrational story of who they thought you were or wanted you to be. And we just go along with it. An infinite number of stories that are now falling away. It's an illusion. And why they show me that tornado and why my teams came in and they said, Joanna, there's nothing holding you back. There's nothing holding you back. It's all an illusion. You're just used to living in the same stories day in, day out. See what we're saying? Everything is a story and it's not real. They're all stories. When you go over to your family's house, you're inserting yourself into a story based on the conditions and the patterns and the behaviors and the beliefs that you've grown up with since you were born, but it's not real. There are limitations that you just insert yourself within and you mold yourself to be fitting in it. But if we're not living within our authenticity, we say, I'm going to break out of this story today. I'm honoring you in all that you are, but I'm not going to allow myself to harmonize into a vibration that doesn't feel good for me anymore. I don't fit within this story anymore. And you guys can play your story because you're happy being there and I love you and I'm going to send you light because that's your story. You're great. I love you. I honor you. And I know we're spirit. We're all one. And I will come back and visit once in a while, but I no longer fit in this story. It's not my vibration of joy anymore. And this is what's really important. Anything that we see in our outer reality are stories of limitation, all of it, because we're not yet in 5D. The excitement and the journey and the adventure is that each and every one of us get to be our own characters and our own heroes within the story and just allow things to unfold and accept the story for what it is and find your place of your hero within it. How am I infusing the heavens within this story? How am I belonging and how am I accepting myself within this story? Because part of my frustration was that, feeling to be made smaller than I actually was because other people around me didn't feel comfortable with whatever light and whatever song, whatever way I was able to connect with spirit, making me feel as if I was different, didn't fit throughout my whole life. And then fitting into the conformity of the divine feminine, having to get married and play the routine roles that were limiting to me and unpractical for me because I wanted to be this whimsical fairy that could do and fly anywhere and be anywhere. And I felt so limited and stifled my whole life. And that found me in a place of living in stories that were not mine. They're not my stories. And then getting further entangled in energies that had nothing to do with who I was and who my vibration was. And then it makes you wake up and say, well, if all of this is before me, then where am I and where is my story and where is the power within me to create the hero that I am in my own story? Because this is not me. It's not me. It's been the reflection that I needed to break the camel's back, if you will, to say that's enough. That's not my story. It's not my story. Not my story anymore. I will be shiny. I will be heard. My voice is powerful. I'm here to create a reality based on my unique, authentic story, and I will. I won't be inserted into anyone else's story to make others feel good or to conform to societal rules or dogma or whatever it might be that I've been so stifled within, because it's just an illusion. It's breaking away. It's not really there. They were the stories and the fractals that I came with to say that, oh, women get married around, 30 and they have children and whatever those stories are. And they're perfect and beautiful stories. I wouldn't take a moment away, not for anything. But I can live a bigger version of me now because I'm on a bigger story. Because now I understand the friction. I understand the characters in the story. I understand why they came to me and why I called them to me. To wake me up, in the face saying, what the crap, that's not your story. What are you doing there? It's not your story. Your story is big, so go be big. Everything else is just an illusion. And I sat there and said, well, I've had this since I was little. This is how it goes. You have the family and all of these things that are meant to be a part of the story. That is a collective story that is now being shaken up and broken up and riddled about Because the waking up process is, well, that's not me anymore. That's not me anymore. We take that character of that that person that meant to experience and explore sexuality for its soul's purpose, became very fractured in the journey of it. But now it can stand forward and say, no, this is who I am. This is who my truth is. This is the shining and the beauty of my story that I was meant to come and experience and explore and express. And I'm perfectly pure and perfect in it. There's no rule anywhere that says source will not accept you because of how you choose to explore your sexuality. Because you're meant to explore that for you and your soul's journey. You are still source. You're still source. The acceptance and the allowance, this is another part that they show me, the acceptance and the allowance of our perfection in the insertion of all these limited stories that are all over the earth. Because Gaia is the story, the grand story, the collective story of limitation and separation, which then is bred right from fear, because fear is all about separation. I fear I'm not going to have enough money. I fear I won't be accepted. I fear I won't this. I fear I won't that. Blah, 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 blah. Well, you're perfect. So if you're not accepted, then so what? Still perfect. Write a new story. You know, why does somebody else's reaction of you have any bearing on your importance and value of you? Validate yourself, love yourself, accept yourself. That's all that's needed. Allow, accept, and love yourself. You are the sacred being of source, and you can create whatever perfect story you want to. And we learn what we do. We're calling in the characters, we're calling in the experiences, we're calling in all of these notions and outside, peripheral, experiences, so that we keep looking at ourselves and saying, well, no, that's not who I am today. That's not who I am today. That's not who I am. What is that? Because it just, you just feel that inner continue frustration, that inner ache, that inner urge, that inner friction. As I said, last week and the week before, that I was resolving that underlying thing, about belonging, about fitting, about being that sacred experience of who I was. Well, this week it was a continuation of that, except bigger and more agitated, because I was calling in those fractured energies that were suppressed. And it's a bigger energy where I can create from, because that is the catalyst that creates these new realities, and it's needed. As long as we're doing it and we're being that catalyst of energy that's in a positive and enlightened way, not in an aggressive, harmful way. So when you get those moments of agitation, you know that there's big parts of you that are being harmonized in the higher vibrational version of you. You're harmonizing the aspects that were subjugated, the aspects that were held down, that were suppressed, that were infused in other stories that weren't you. And you just took it on because, well, everybody else was doing it. We are these perfect essences and energies of source, perfect. We've come in to explore and express and experience ourselves as perfect. But because of the insertions of us in the energies of others, we then begin taking on fractals and fragments of others. We then become harmed and wounded, scarred. We're then placed in homes with greater dysfunction, then dogma, greater dysfunction and limitation and suppression, and communities and so on. And so it's important, how important it is for us to continue to remain the perfection of that glowing story of who we are. We are the heroes of our story. We are the heroes of our becoming. We are the heroes of our own inspiration to say that I am perfect and I will create my own story. I won't be inserted into anybody else's story, because it's a notion of what divine feminine had to succumb to, that we had to take the lower paying jobs, that we were the bystanders of a divine masculine story of becoming. No, we are our own sovereign energies of light and perfection, and so too are the aged, and so too are the sacred children. And there is no one story that's more important than another. We are absolutely all equal, and we all deserve to shine, and we all deserve to have our voices harmonized and healed in thy being of thyself, and having thyself as thy hero. I am thy hero. I don't need anything for anybody from the outside to come to me and say, this is who you are. No, I get to choose that. I get to be the hero of my story. And I get to say when I want to be in a certain story, when I don't want to be in a certain story, because that's my writing of my story with source. And if vibrations don't feel good to me, I get to say so. It doesn't feel good to me, and I choose to be this story now, because I get to create my story. I get to create my reality from who I am, and not feel as if I'm again, protesting or putting somebody out of place because they're still working in stories of density or limitation, or trying to work around fears. Because everybody's got their own story they're working on. Fine. Work on the stories of who you are, knowing why you call in the characters you call in, why you call in the landscapes you do, why you become the villain one day and the hero the next day. Everybody has their own stories to suss out with source. What we're saying is that everything that we've been placed within and all the conformities that have fractured each and every one of us are falling away. They're not there. They're not real. It's not real. And at any point that you find those triggers and those frictions, you can say, that story doesn't even exist anymore. You can't even remember what the story was about. That's how fast this timeline is changing. It doesn't fit anymore. You know, we're giving it to you an example. The idea of our society and divine females and divine feminine being paid far less than a divine masculine, that story will no longer exist on the earth that we are co-creating with great, we've got such great passion because I now am living in my pure, transparent truth of who I am. And I'm not going to fall into stories of less than just to feel comfortable or to feel as if I'm I'm a secondary character or an option or you know um, you know whatever it might be that just demeans and belittles people in every way. No, every child on this planet is their own hero. Every child is the author of their story with source. They are perfect and they are whole, nothing limiting them at all. Start off with that beautiful, simple truth and let them be exactly who they are and let them break every boundary, break every rule that they say that they're limited and they can't do that their way and their unique honoring of who they are and explore who they are and express who they are and experience who they are as source. Because we are creating new threads and new realities now from the perfection and the hero of who we are each, a source. And we must live that. We must live that authenticity. We go through the stories that we go through to show us, wow, that was a fragment there. That was a fractal of energy there that just wasn't mine. That belief is not mine. And I don't have to thread myself into a story that's not mine, not my story. This is my story, and I get to be the main character. I get to be the hero. I get to be the one that creates the characters and the landscapes because I'm an author with God, a source creator with spirit. And I'm healing every one of those little fragments that said, no, you got to be this. You got to be put in this box. No, you got to be this. You got to be put in that box. No, you can't do that. No, you got to be put in this box. No, those stories are not even there anymore. Not there. It's illusion. And so I was sitting there, I'm just going, they were showing me these little boxes and these little golden balls, spheres being placed in. And I'm just like, and then all of a sudden it just dropped all away and there was these golden balls everywhere. I mean, energetically, vibration, that's profound. When you're going through what you're going through in your day and you think, well, I've got this to do, I've got that to do. And you think about all these little worries that are just overcoming your energy space. And Source Creator is showing you there is nothing there. Your energy and your worry and your friction of not being as expansive and as beautiful and as infinite as you are creating the illusions of these stories to say that you're creating these stories of people wanting to limit you and people wanting to control from you and people wanting to take from you because you are still in I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. And I will break free. There's nothing there. Bye. Bye. It's a limiting story you can step right out of and be that golden little sphere that just has nothing around it. And you get to start off fresh with source. This is my new story. It's no limitation. I'm free. I'm free. And off she goes. The caged bird is no more. She's free. And so too is every child. So release all the boxes and the limitations that we think we have to place on them because of outdated illusions and paradigms and dogmas that have absolutely no bearing into the perfection and the expansiveness of who we are as stories of Source Creator. The story wants to continue and Source will live through us as a story of infinite beingness. We are infinite. It is the beliefs and the perspectives that hold us in these little boxes. In the womb, is your womb an infinite expression of Source Creator? Is your womb an infinite house for your child? And the womb is the house, the community, the city. See what we're saying? The womb is that which we are carried in, Gaia. And how is our collective understanding its infiniteness within the womb of Gaia? Or are we still judging one another and demeaning one another and belittling one another because of our package or our history? We are the wisdoms of our history. The wisdom's of it, because it's all now, it's all now, it's all now, it's all now. And the divine threading wants to take us up to somewhere big and great where there are all no rules. Because when we understand that there are no rules, we don't want to harm or hurt anybody or pull games on other people to get one over on them or to get things from them, because we understand that it's all us. Those are still living in those little boxes of limitations. Say, I don't have enough money, so I've got to take from someone else. I don't have enough this, so I got to take some from someone else. I got to tell that person they're not enough because I don't feel like I'm enough, so I got to tell them they're not enough so that they can fit with me or be with me. See what we're saying? They're all from these stories of limitation. They're not who you are. They're just stories that you came a part of, and you can say, that story is breaking away now. It's not my story. I get to be exactly who I am. Then you, from all of those little frictions, you get to go and say, who am I? What's my story? A profound story. That's who you are. You're infinite and you're limitless, and that's where you begin. That's where you begin. That's where you begin. That's where you begin. You don't have to slot yourself into a category that says you're divine feminine, you get paid $40,000 a year less than the divine male that's working at your same level, same job, or out in society that is a profound healer. But your stories will never be written about because you're not you're not the voice of the masculine coming forward to say what's what. Those are stories and limitations that are held within the consciousness of our collective, that each and every one of us are healing the fractals and the fragments, because we all feel it. As you awaken, you'll feel the vibrations. It's like a pressing, the pressing of oppression, the pressing of oppression and subjugation. You'll feel it when your fields and your bodies and your energy fields wake up. When you feel these energies, it feels like you're having those pockets of depression, because you're healing all of those projections and rules and stories that you were told, and that the collective tells you. Remember, our bodies are sending and receiving experiences of light. We're epicenters of light. We are taking on the projections and the energies of everything and everybody around us. Then what's in our chakras, what's in our fields, in our psyche, the inner and the outer, physical, mental, emotional, etheric, are those suppressed experiences from our family and our lineage and our dogma that we heard when we were little, that are also attached to, again, all of the timelines that we've come to heal that also had those similar subjugations and oppressions. So when we have those big pockets of depression, it's because the bodies are clearing all of these stories that are being broken up that are not there anymore. It's got to be transmuted. So how do we transmute it in a positive and elegant way? We use that agitation. We use those stories that we're each holding within us as if we're pearls coming brand new again. And we're just going to use that. We're just going to say, okay, boy, I get it now. I get it now. Boy, oh boy, watch me go now. that little, I'm a Taurus bull. Let me get out there. Let me at him. Oh boy, watch me make something now. I'll build a house in a day flat. That's where all that friction comes from. So use that energy, use that, because there'll be different awakenings in varying people's lives. So use that energy as a recycling experience to catalyze you into something new, where there are no boundaries, there are no walls, there are no more stories that you have to absorb into your beingness, where you have to try and see where you can be inserted. No, you are the captain of the story. You are the writer of the story. You are the author. You are the hero. You are everything within it and without of it. We are one with source writing that story. There are no limitations. Perfect golden spheres. And I get to sing myself into a place that is undeniable and undefinable because we don't have words for it yet. And I'm not feeling comfortable being inserted into smaller stories that don't make me feel good, make me feel small and insignificant. No, I'm going to make my own story. I'm going to make my own reality because I am the author of it. And all that friction and all those energies of less than and being suppressed and pressed down are beautiful, elegant stories. Again, it's not a protest. This is where you use those agitations, you use that friction of what was. Just let it go. They're not real. They're not real. We feel the energies of those stories when we go and have dinner at our parents' place, or all of those all of those energies where those fractals took place, those fragments took place, where those scars took place in the cities around us, in the schools, and why people have such varying experiences when they go back into schools, because that's where the injuries occurred. That's where the wounding was held, where you were placed in judgment of being less than or not right, or being wrong, or being bullied, or wearing a different pair of jeans that the other people didn't wear, and all of a sudden you're an outcast. See what we're saying? They're all beautiful and wonderful stories, but they're no longer there anymore. Not there. So you don't have to feel like you fit. You don't have to fit and insert yourself into someone else's story. So the next time you see what's before you on Facebook, what is it showing you? Or on YouTube, what are those titles showing you? Go through the themes. What are they showing you? Are they showing you about your importance? Are they showing you about you being the hero of your own story? They showing you about how profound you are with Source Creator? Are they showing you what are those themes? And what does it say about you? What does it say about your story? Who is it saying that you are in that day? Because you are creating what's coming back at you, and it's going to show you in a very short period of time. Wow, got to work on that. Holy cow. No, I'm my own story. I'm not waiting for nobody. I'm out. See ya. Bye. Peace. Because it's a story that doesn't fit. It's not my story anymore. It was a beautiful expression and experience. But if I'm limiting myself to be waiting to be inserted into someone's story, how does that make me feel as a divine feminine? No, I create my own story. I'm not waiting for nobody. I don't need to be saved. I don't need a ring. Don't put a ring on it. No, I don't need a ring. I'm creating my own story. I am the hero of my own story, meaning that I got my own ring. My own ring. I bought that for me. Me. I'm married to me and God. All my guides, all my ancestors, that's me. I saved myself. Don't wait to be inserted into somebody else's story. You make it. Make your own story. You're a hero. Start healing those wounds that have all those frictions and all of those less than moments, or those moments where someone made you feel like an option, or you weren't valued enough, you weren't important enough, or you were too kind. Whatever those were that made you just feel as if you did not belong. You absolutely belong. You created that story so you could wake up one day and say, wow, I am my own hero. I don't need any of that. Great experience. Thank you for the experience, but now I'm this. This is my story with God, and I'm going to heal it all. Because they all played an important part. Don't devalue and dishonor all of it in between the way. It just gave you that friction that you needed to say, I was a part of that, I was a part of that, I was part of that. Because it's all a part of society that we're all healing and transmuting. And that's why we get those agitations. Use that agitation of beauty. Use it as your catalyst. Use it as you're saying, those are stories that weren't even mine. And if those people don't understand or like me or accept me for who I am, then they're going to go find their stories where until they get their story right, until they remember of their infinite oneness and their golden sphere of Source Creator, allow it. It's okay. You don't need everyone to accept you. You got to accept you. You got to accept you for who you are. You come forward in your authentic truth, your authentic story. And you say, this is my story. I am my own hero. And those that don't like it, they can create their stories and they're going to find out their truth. It's all perfect. It's all joyful. It's all, their stories are perfect. No less than. There is no less than. There is no greater than. There is the infinite. And there is only love. Anything that is not love all the time are those friction stories where we say, oh, I don't want to be in that story anymore. I'm going to take myself out and put myself in this story over here. You get to take yourself out and place yourself in new stories. Your higher self, your soul, your oversoul, and God working with you, and all the angels putting with you, where you get to say, I'm calling judgment on this story. I've learned all my lessons. I've made truce with it. I've made peace with it. I've reconciled with it. This is who I am now. Because I surrender all of these stories that made me less than, because I want to heal it now. They're not my stories anymore. Because my story right now is perfect and infinite, and it was all a part of it. But just as we turn the page, we only pick out those lessons and those wisdoms, and it becomes a new story. And you get to be the culmination of all your characters. You get to be a culmination of all your oneness. It's all one. To show you the value of your wholeness and your oneness, and why you call people in when you do and how you do. They're showing you a part of your story through which you were carrying a wound from wherever you were encased within, that you took with you and you took it on as your own, to clear it, to say, no, I'm infinite. Start there. No, I'm infinite. Start there. No, my mind is infinite. Start there. No, my capacities are infinite. I've got skills constantly being downloaded every day. So many creations, so many ideas, and I will create the story that I want to be in. I will be the hero of my story. And this is how it's going to go. I'm not going to insert myself into somebody else's story to make some other person feel better. If we happen to vibrationally meet up because it's a vibrational experience, but I get to choose my story. I get to be the hero of it. And I get to save myself. And so how many stories have been out there since our inception of all of humanity that are just sitting out there as like little floating imaginary walls and houses that we're sitting inside? There's nothing holding you back. It's an illusion. There's nothing there. We're creating it because every day we wake up in it. It's the same story, vibrational story. But we got to create a new vibrational story. It starts with who you are. Who are you? Source. I'm powerful. I'm infinite. I'm profound. Somebody says you can write a 10,000 page essay on, I remember when I was in college, and I took a history class, and we had to do these essays on how we thought the goods were received from one place to another. And because I was able to feel into vibrationally the community energies, and I've got some really great ideas I want to work with universities on in the future, how they traveled back and forth. And I was just intuitively just channeling as I was writing my essay, and I got a really great mark. And the teacher was saying, well, how did you come up with that story? And I just said, I just know how they travel. I just saw it and I wrote it out. But if she wasn't open, and if she wasn't guided to be okay with that, she would have begun to argue with me and tell me how wrong I was because it didn't line up with the programmed context of the book that was studied. She was open enough to say, wow, that was really great, and I could have seen that happen. She said, well, I get that. Yeah, that makes sense. She was open. See, this is what we're talking about, that all of the stories of these limitations, these houses that we were all boxed in, they're all coming down. Because every earth that we are on is co-creating unique stories of the new earth history that we're all wanting to take a part of and be a part of changing. Does that make sense? We're creating in all moments new evolutionary earths that are expansive than they were the day before, as long as each and every one of us are saying, we're part of that infinite experience. I'm ready to let go of this limited story. Everything is a limited story. Everything. Because it's when you're living in the divine mind and the eye of God, God says this is your capability, and everything will be laid before you. Everything is laid before you when you live and match Source Creator. And all of the earths are becoming renewed and threaded up into these new vibrations of infinite potentiality. But it's up to us to match that. We match it by healing those experiences and those stories that we were encased within that said we were different, not accepted, that we were not worthy, that we were a secondary part, a secondary story, a secondary insertion, a devalued aspect of society, if you will, because of, I don't know why my leg was so threaded around my, she's like, where did my leg come from? Those are my personal experiences of how I've seen and felt things at such a profound level of limitation. And it's just like, no. And I was telling my team today, why do we feel such an agitation? They were saying, it's divine threading. You're being pulled up into a new experience. You're being pulled up into a new vibration. And all of those stories have to go somewhere. They're vibrations that are held within you and the collective. So how are you going to catalyze and recycle that energy and do it in a way that serves you? Where you're not yelling and freaking out at people and scaring them, and it was like it was a profound epiphany. It was like, and so I was telling my son, I said, there was a whole bunch of Lego, and I was going through this epiphany. And I was saying, okay, now sources put all of this energy that's just like a tornado, it's just spinning and spiraling around, all of these stories of depression and suppression and limitation, not enough, don't belong, don't fit, too unusual, nobody's going to understand you, all of those energies that are just spiraling around wanting you to co-create with it, those little tornadoes. I just thought, okay, show me. It's like I was saying to and they gave me a picture of my son's all this Lego. Okay, well, there's all the Lego. What are you gonna do with it? It's your story. And I'm just like, okay, well, show me. Give me a little picture that says A to B and B to C. And Source is like, no, this is your story. We're here to inspire you and lift you up. And we're here to make sure that you stay on your theme. But this is your story. This is your earth. So out of all those little friction stories that are now coming crumbling down in all aspects, medical field, schools, education, everything, where it was egocentric, dominated through fear and control. It's all breaking because of all the light. It's all breaking. So now there's all these spiraling tornadoes. But let's use that as these catalysts that go, let's do this. Let's do this, community. Let's do this. Everybody gather in vibrations. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's create something really profound and powerful. Because of the little tornadoes of each and every one of us that are all being stirred up, saying, okay, now what the crap? Okay, I'm left just, whirling and spiraling into this tornado. Now what the fuck? And that's how it feels like some days. Just like, okay, just went through a multi-dimensional tornado of me. All those times people told me I wasn't enough and no, you don't fit. Oh yeah? Suck eggs, I do fit. And I get to choose my story. Now you start saying, well, that didn't matter. That didn't. Then you find all those little tornadoes of all that worry and all that suppression and all those comments that made you feel so small and dull. It's just like, it just disappeared because you say, wow, I'm going to create this with it. I'm going to create that with it. I'm going to create that with it. And it becomes something new and recycled into something more profound. So use it to your benefit. Use it to be that friction within that pearl that catalyzes something new. All of those moments through which come up out of those clearings. You do your daily self-clearing. You bring that up. What is it I'm supposed to see in this? What is it I'm supposed to see in this? Acceptance. Everyone before you is your acceptance of you. You're bringing them into your story to say, I accept you. You told me that I was not enough. You told me that I had to wait to be accepted. You told me that I had to be an infusion into your story. No. I'm my own story and I'm over here. Bye. See ya. And why those stories exist. Because there was that energetic experience that wasn't resolved, that wasn't reconciled. And the little threads that just keep tangling and pulling and yanking. No, I'm going to reconcile it. I get to say when I reconcile my stories, and I reconcile it. I release those energetic, emotional, mental, and energetic triggers that are still spiraling around this little tiny tornado that has my vibration in it. I'm going to say, no, I give peace to it. I give peace to it and I return it to source because I want to pull this from that and I'm going to go this with this. It's all the recycling of you in those little tiny tornadoes as the wind is really howling outside. All these little tiny tornadoes where you get to pick and choose who you are and where you are and where you're meant to be for you. Your perfection. There is no walls. There's no boundaries. There's no limitations now. It's new. So what are you going to do with it? Who are you going to be? Who are you meant to be? Who are you meant to be? Clear, no fractions. No scars, no wounds. Fully glowing and fully transparent. You're gorgeous, you're infinite, you're infinite, you're infinite. Start there, start there, start there. And send love and blessings and healings to all else. And allow them their perfect path that they're meant to explore. They're meant to explore their story in their way. Not be caught up in someone else's story because they think that's what they have to do. No, accept it. Who's to say that same experience of that person that's going through that sexual exploration of who they are, to fully explore it, to be who they are in their exploration, and to be in benevolent care of who they are with their bodies and others in their bodies, the benevolent care of one another, but to explore who they are in benevolent care and keeping free will, of course, and not harming and hurting anybody, of course, because then you understand that you're exploring it within your full due diligence and prudence and all of those things that allow you to explore it in a way that is healthy for you. That's healthy exploration in truth and honesty and authenticity. And the people surrounding that person in that story, acceptance of all those stories becoming a higher vibrational experiential story would say, okay, that's cool. I accept you in it. And actually, I wanted to do this in my story and I accept you in that. And this is how I'm going to go. Would you accept me in that? And they said, well, actually, yeah, I would. Actually, it would just relieve a whole bunch of pressure between us because we both thought we had to fit inside these stories that didn't even belong to us. They weren't even ours. So how accepting can these stories be? Working within each one's agreement of what each one wants to experience and express and explore and be that exploration, because we're creating these new dynamics through which it's open and it's infinite. Can't be infinite if we're living under projections and stories that are absolutely no longer valid anymore because they're based on greed and fear, limitation, separation, wrong, right. It's all source. It's all source. All stories are source. All characters are source. You get to choose what your hero is. You get to choose how your story belongs. You get to choose how your story just moves off here, here, and here, how it serves you in your soul's exploration. the freedom of your soul, the benevolence of your soul, the exploration of your soul, the expression of your soul, and to be very important because you are. Not to be made less than because it doesn't fit into somebody else's story. So be okay with that. Let it go. Okay, I'll let that go. It's not my story anymore. Bye. Go have your story and I'll have mine. And that way, all are free to experience and explore their soul's expression of who they really are and heal it. Heal it within and say, those are aspects of me that are no longer valid. They're making me feel small. Then I'm not small anymore. Those stories, I want to write something new. They're part of the old paradigm that's just not there anymore. And why, when you wake up in the morning, it's a really new earth, because they're not including those stories that you just healed and made into some big grand story now. Because your story is you in one with Source. You, the perfection of Source. You, the infinite being of Source. You get to be the main character. You get to be every person in between. How do you want to write that story? Who do you want to call in to be a part of that story? What kind of landscape are you working with? This is infinite. This is what the children need. You are infinite. What does your landscape look like? Dream, 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 dream. Explore, explore, explore. And that's why I had such great agitation, because for all of my life I was saying, no, too small. Just be small. Just be small and fit in with everybody else. No, you can't dream that big. Are you crazy? That's not going to come true. Don't even think about that. It's not coming true. It's too crazy. What are you talking about? Dream. Go. Go. That's Source Creator. Go. Children, play. Play. There's so much available for us. You see the whole room just light up. It's all light. It's all light. So how are we going to play? In small but little boxes that make us feel small, insignificant, options, secondary characters? Or do we want to be the hero? I want to be the hero that's just all light. Look at, just all light. Carry it, walk with it, work with it. What's your story? What's your landscape? What are you creating? Use those friction moments. Use those catalyzing moments of those old stories that are breaking, those old paradigms that are breaking. Because the ego and all that we've ever existed in, that's that grief. Grief is that friction of change. Can we let go of it that easily? Can I move through loss that easily? Yeah, because you know it's a part of the all. It's always there. It's just you're going to create a new story with it now. See what we're saying? Nothing's ever gone. It's always a part of the all. You just get to choose what you want to create with it now. It's all Source. You get to choose in any one moment, because each and every one of us are stuck to limiting stories that are routinely the same day in and day out, with routine environments day in, day out, routine beliefs day in and day out. Remember, if the collective believe that the infinite is available to us, the infinite creates in this way, the collective creates in this way, our consciousness and our reality is based on what we believe to be true. We are infinite. We are infinite heroes of our own story. So create this way. Anything that keeps you limited and held back is an illusion. It's not there anymore. It's a story you just keep inserting yourself within, but you don't have to. What's your new story? How are you the hero of who you are? Remember, you're all characters that you call into your experience. Those ones that say you can't do it. Those ones that say you're not enough. Those ones that say you're not meaningful to me. Those ones that say, oh no, that's not my truth. It's because there is a higher truth for you, and that's that hero that says, no, I'm a hero now. I'm not going to take any limitation verbatim, because I get to create my story. That's who I am, because I'm one with God. I'm the author with God. I'm the author with Spirit. I'm infinite. Start there. I get to be my own hero, and I'm going to break through, because my heart is grand and big enough, and my heart speaks for the all. For I am that I am, and I is made as God is. I is made as God is. I am who I am. Source. Fly, fly, fly. That caged bird is no longer. Freedom and liberation for all. That is our story. Infinitely creative Source Creator. No, any being is held less than. Make no mistake about it. And we are rewriting it right here and right now. The perfection of our own stories. We are our own heroes. Don't wait for anybody to be your hero. You are it. You're it, you're it, you're it. And anything that you see around you that feels like a limitation, write it in your story and say, I'm done with it. Why did I believe that? Why did I feel less than? Why am I waiting for someone to come and tell me what to do? No, you're a hero. Get busy, get busy, get busy. And fly, fly, fly. You're not caged. You're not held back. You're not held in. You're not suppressed. You're not depressed. You're free. You got this. You are a hero. What does your story say? Where are you going? What's the landscapes? Who are you with? What are you here to co-create? What are you here to experience and explore and express as you? Who are you as Source? You're infinite and you're perfect. You came here perfect. Remember that perfection. Go back to it, you're infinite. Go back to it, you're perfect. Go back to it and heal those wounds and those bruises of people telling you less than and judging you for a unique and intuitive and a creative blessing that you brought forward to heal and help people. Heal those moments and make it a part of your beautiful story that catalyzes you into something new. What does your story say? Where's your journey and adventure taking you into the infinite aspects of you as source? That's so profound, so profound, so profound. And then you just feel so invigorated and powerful. There's nothing holding me back. I'm not waiting for anybody. Oh my gosh, I'm starting my reality now. This is what I want. This is how I want to experience myself. This is what I want to explore. This is what I want to create. And my body is healthy. My body is beautiful. My body is healthy. My body is beautiful. I'm on the source. I'm on the source. I'm creating new stories now. I'm creating new stories now. They're way out here. They're way out here. They're way out here. That's my refined mind waiting. My body, I am presence. I am one, the holy creator, the holy creator. That's why we come in the way that we do, and we face the stories that we choose to face, so that at some point we wake up and say, enough is enough. That's not my story anymore. I'm infinite and I'm worthy of such greatness. And I'm going to start calling in people that absolutely know of my greatness too. Not waiting for nobody. I'm starting to create it right now. No more waiting. Done. The end. And a new story begins. So awesome. You are not that which you see. You are not that which you see. Only the smaller version of a story of you. So everybody before you is a portion of a story that you're here to resolve and make one in your wholeness. Remember, we're God. Micro, macro, God, 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 God. So God is saying this is where you were placed within, and you became a part of all those energies around you, the smaller aspects of you. We say smaller because we're only saying that from the I am presence, it's a part of the story. It's a fraction. That's what we mean by smaller. Fraction. It's a moment of energy that person is before you to say, this is a fraction of my story right now. What is it showing me? Unhappiness. I don't belong. I'm not a mix with you. What is it showing you? What is that fraction? It will show you that, yes, you are one. It's still you. It's still all you. It's still one. So to honor it, honor that story. But it's showing you that that's not my vibration anymore. I really want to be doing this. Still accept it. Still honor it. But now go to where you need to go. Because remember, we pull everything before us so that we can say sometimes what we want, what we don't want. Right? We have to know that. We come with these fractures for a reason, because it shows us who we were told we were, who we were projected to be, who we were conformed and fit into. But that's not who we really are. And so we're going to continue calling these people in to show us these fractures, to say, no, that's not who I am anymore. I want to be bigger. I want to be my own hero. Children come inherent into this earth with their own truth. We are here to break up the boxes through which we force and create conformity and stories of conformity that are all illusory. Darkness and the old stories are breaking up, and it's just for us to surrender into the greater story of who we've always been. Perfect and true and real, transparent. The divine threading of who we are is all aspects of all that we are. All aspects. Anybody before you is you. Everybody before us is you. That's why this is not a protest. It's all you. It's your story. You're writing it. You get to write it with God. You get to write it with source. You're not a victim. You are you. You are the one standing there saying, I can write my own story now. I'm going to let go of this, 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 and this. So I'm going to stand in my power. I will be the commander of my story. I will be the hero of my story. And I get to say those rules don't fit with me anymore, because here's where I'm meant to be. The most limiting versions of you and your consciousness, that's the divine threading. That's what they were showing me. Those are those most limiting versions of your consciousness that now you're sussing out, and you're saying, okay, I make peace with it now. That was a limited perspective of me that said I had to be married and wait for a man to ask me to marry them, and then I was accepted, and then I belonged, and I got validated. No. Divine feminine validates who she is by being who she is. Don't need to wait for nobody. Marry yourself. Get right with you and be validation of you. Accept you, validate you. Then you're not an option to anybody else's story. You won't be inserted into somebody's story as a secondary option, or whatever it might be that we see coveting our existence, because we're still working in old, outdated stories that say, that's who I thought I was. I was told that in my house. I saw it in everything I saw. Went to job interviews and was told I was less than. I was paid less than. I had to wait for spousal support. I had to wait for somebody to tell me who I was. No, I validate who I am. I am my own hero. And it's not a protest. This is who I am, as my oneness. I get to write my story. Wait for nobody. Thank you to everything that's a part of my story, because I needed it all to say, this is who I am. It's the great friction that's going to create a new reality for me. We place people in stories through what we remember of them. So again, are we seeing through the eyes of our infinite? Are we seeing through the eyes of the infinite potentiation, or are we seeing others through the eyes of the pain that we experience them with? If you have just like this, the story of the person through their sexuality, if they go and have a family dinner, are we seeing those before us through the eyes of the pain that they caused us? Are we seeing them as the perfection of God that they are true, transparent people too? We tend to always see people through the pain that they caused us and brought to us. So see those before you as new, because we're in a new reality now. New story. Everybody before you is source. See them as source. See them as your brothers. See them as your sisters. See them as your one. And in that story, what are they showing you? And if they choose to speak of a different story that might be limited or different than yours, accept it and send them light. It's their experience of their story, but choose to see them now by releasing the pain, by releasing the old wounds, and see them as God perfection. Otherwise, you're just creating more stories where you're seeing them as pain and you're continuing that pain story with them. So are you perceiving everybody before you through the eyes of pain and fractals of less than? That was my biggest epiphany. Are you seeing those around you as the stories of limitation and fractals of not enough, fractals of non-validation? Because it's about who we are. I see everything as now validating who I am because I do. I see everything as allowing the value and the genuine authenticity and the genuine vibration of me as me because I do. That's the hero, where you are that of God sees you, threading you, being you. I now see it now, I get it now. And therefore everything before me will be that reflection. And if not, maybe I needed that just for them to see me in that way. Remember, it's not always a blanket statement of our own reflections, because that's what they need too. And we're doing that for one another because, again, we're one. That's what we need. It's a huge, beautiful story. And you get to see, what am I perceiving the world through? Infinite potentiality, that I'm abundant in all things, that I can shine like the sun, that I will call those forward that allow me to be my vibrant self and they love me for it. And I get held up high because they love that aspect of me and I love that aspect of them. It's a mutual, respectful story. That's what I'm going to create now. That's my new story. And I get to create things that have never been seen and heard before because I'm bringing the divine feminine wisdom back. And I get to rewrite it right now, because all these other systems are falling away. And source will take it away. And it'll be retransmuted into something new. Again, take those friction stories and make it new. Take those friction stories and make it new. And what is it showing you? Those wounds and those fractures. And make it new, make it whole, because you're the only one that can make you whole. You and source. Nobody outside of you can make you whole. They are the stories of our wholeness and our oneness, because within us we felt not whole. See what we're saying? It's an illusion. There are aspects of us that we need to see to feel. I'm the one creating my wholeness because I accept you as a part of me. You're my brother, you're my sister. There's no more judgment and separation because I'm making it right within me first, because I'm the hero of my own story. I don't need anything outside of me to limit me and say that you can't. Yes, I can. I'm infinite. I'm source. I am the cell of God. I make it all real. I make everything that I see as the cell of God. Everything that I see before me is the creation of God, as I am the eye of God, as I am the eye of God. For truth, love, and light, benevolence. And this is my story, my hero story, the journey of who I am, why I brought the friction, the fragments of less than, lack of, not important, not valid. And how are we creating a greater earth of oneness and unity and socio-altruism for the children by giving them as such? They're infinite children. Start there. Infinite masters, start there. Infinite storytellers, start there. Start there, because this is the earth that we create. The infinite now, 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 the infinite now. Story, hero, hero, story, hero, story, hero, story, hero, story, hero, story. I hate the game. Profound. Be an infinite storyteller, because you are. Our weekly Ascension classes tomorrow at 11 a.m. Our donation box is below. We love you so much. We love you so much. We love you so much. Use that friction inside of you to catalyze something profound and great. Use that energy. Write down and start journaling and creating those self-care moments so that you understand why you're going through what you're going through. When you have those big moments of so much passion and anger and agitation, sort it out, because it's showing you, who are you trying to fit into? Who are you trying to be? And what's really you? Who are you? Are you trying to fit into someone else's story? Or are you being fully you? That's where you begin. Infinite you, infinite you, infinite you. And your story is not meant to be like anybody else's. So don't try and make yourself fit into somebody else's story. You are your own author with source. You are the creator with you. You're the creator that's building these new grids for the children to be infinite. And we're going to talk about our second segment on this is the divine threading. The the divine threading is the story of who you are as the hero through all creation. You need yourself to experience all that is to be the hero of who you are in those moments where you say, no, this is who I am now. This is who I am now. This is who I am now. And it takes those stories of not knowing what we are to get to this moment of say, yeah, this is who I am now. The hero becomes the hero because it's had everything in between, all shades of gray, all stories of limitation to say, no, this is who I am now. And I get to create my story. I know that now. And I get to be fully shine, turn on. I'm who I am. This is who I am. My own story, me. Nobody can take that from me because I experienced every minute of it, every ounce of it with source. Me and source, me and source, me and source. We're creating right now, right now, right now, right now. I get to say that. Because you get it. You get it. You get it. You get it. Nothing defines you. Nothing. Nothing and no one defines you. Let it go. You're the hero. You're the hero. You're the hero. Start writing. Start creating with source. Source, what do you got for me today? I want a really big life. I want a really big life. Show me the way. Show me the way. Show me the way. All I want to do is help. There's nothing holding you back. Whispers from the divine are so beautiful and selective. We love you, dear little ones. Donation boxes below. Join us for our weekly classes. Woo! Be free, birdies. Fly, be free. We love you.